3, 2, 1. Hello YouTube, Otaku here. We're going to be getting back into it with The Moon is Down by John Steinbeck. If you haven't been onto this channel before, please go ahead and check out the channel description. I'm going to be your personal narrator. If you have been onto this channel before, let's go ahead and grab your eucalyptus inhalation equipment. Clink, clink, clink. Yeah, so we had a very special re-up that we were able to purchase the liquid gold. So inside this equipment, we are having a lot of potency in today's session. There we go. Make sure to please also have some water on standby. These sessions do get intense. Now, these are one of those times, once again, where I'm without, but do as I say, not as I do. Clink, clink, clink. This one's spicy meatball. Okay. I believe we left off on page... I know I said on to my last... Surely. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. Let's go ahead and start where we left off, right here. Sheesh, I have lost my... Wow. Alright, let's go ahead and figure this out. So, where did I leave off from the last time? This is my world. We're all just living in it. Alright. I remember there being a quote. Yep, the Norwegian title. Popularity. Yeah, Paul Lang. Okay. Got this far. Actually, yeah, should be alright. Yeah, we're getting a lot closer. I'm recognizing words that I've had to write down. Yeah, right here with the China. Let's just start with that. For 40 years later, a spokesman for the book company that published New China magazine remembered that the Chinese people were encouraged by the patriotic eagerness of Steinbeck's character to resist their conquerors. End quote. Today, at a half-century's distance from the controversy ignited by the publication of The Moon is Down, it is clear that Fadiman, Thrumper, and other critics who had prophesied this failure as propaganda were entirely wrong. Evidence of its success in Nazi-occupied Europe and in China is compelling. the dedication of those who translated, printed, and distributed at considerable risk, the impressive number of editions and copies published during the occupation on the makeshift machinery and using taxing conditions, as well as after the war being recently liberated publishing houses, and the accounts of former members of the resistance and others who witnessed firsthand the force of its ideas. But beyond the obvious conclusion that Steinbeck was right and his critics wrong about what would constitute effective propaganda, several questions arise. Why were the hostile American critics so mistaken, and how do we account for the difference between their reaction and that of the Europeans? Why do the American detractors fail to appreciate what so appealed to the Europeans? And finally, what does the stunning wartime European reception of The Moon is Down tell us about the genius of John Steinbeck? The French writer and philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre offered a theory that probably accounts for the critics' divergence of opinions. In his power essay of What is Literature, he contends that we can have no true understanding of a literary work unless we know who an author is writing for. To illustrate his point, Sartre recalls a wartime literary controversy similar to that surrounding The Moon is Down, another highly popular work of anti-Nazi fiction publicized in France during the war was a short novel entitled The Silence of the Sea, written by Jean Berler, a member of the French resistance better known by his nom de gras, Victors. Like Steinbeck, Berler portrayed the Germans as human beings, often intelligent, if misguided, and frequently polite and likable. The Silence of the Sea succeeded as propaganda within occupied France, but it has found a hostile audience in Frenchmen and women living abroad, many of whom in fact accused Berler of collaboration. Sartre's explanation for the mixed reception of that Berler was writing for compatriots living under the Nazis. He was among them, sharing their feelings and the routines of their existence. He realized that to stereotype all Germans as ogres would have been laughable to those who had daily contact with the enemy and who knew better. Wow, so what they're all the propaganda. It's very interesting that the way they depict this propaganda being used is like the exact opposite of communism. In my opinion, it's like the propaganda of liberation. And that would be like what communism is to us, to communism. Like, oh, you want to spread your ideas of free thought, and I have no idea what it's going to cover, but you want to spread these thoughts among our flock of servants and equals? Like, please, human error is too contrast to sit there and allow for such methods to be implemented. Yeah, that's about it. You're living a fantasy if you're trying to sit there and do something like communism in reality. Good luck with that. Ever. In theory, for sure. Let's go ahead and smoke again, y'all. Clink, clink, clink. Ooh, look, it's on fire. Ooh. Scooby snacking right now. All right.